And good morning to you, Blues fans. Grooves Blues Reviews here, and wow, it's just unbelievable. Just started these videos, these reviews just this year, and talking about a Stanley Cup Finals and the Blues playing the Bruins. It's just unbelievable, and it's just again so grateful that they're here, and it's going to be a great series in my opinion. And let's just go ahead and get started and break down so I can get to my prediction here. So. Let's go ahead and start with the Boston Bruins. So, how did they get here to the finals? Well, they have a 12-5 record in the playoffs, 6-3 at home, and 6-2 on the road. So, very impressive. They defeated Toronto in 7, defeated the Blue Jackets in 6, and then swept the Carolina Hurricanes in the Eastern Conference Final to now be our Stanley Cup Final opponent. Goaltending wise, Tuukka Rask, solid with a 12-5 record, 1.84 goals against average and a .942 save percentage. Very impressive. He is in the zone. 57 goals for, 33 goals allowed, 33 to 34 shots for a game for Boston. They allow around 32 shots each game on average. Their power play, 34% on average here for the playoffs, and their penalty kill at 86.3%. Also, they're coming in hot as they won the last 3 games of that six game series against the Blue Jackets, and then of course swept the Carolina Hurricanes. So they are on a 7-game win streak right now. We see they've got speed, they've got experience, of course, being in the Stanley Cup Finals before with this core group, and of course they got Chara. They've just a giant human being on defense. Marchand up front. Their leading scorer, no surprise in the playoffs, but also too he can get under your skin. He's a good hockey player and obviously a good leader for that team as well. This team looks it looks all around like a very tough team, and they have what some consider the best first line in hockey right now. So a tough task here. The Blues, how did they get here? Well, 12-7 record, 5-5 at home, so 500 at home, 7-2 on the road. They got through Winnipeg in 6 games, got through Dallas in 7, and got through San Jose in 6, although it could have been 5 if it wasn't for that game 3 where the Blues couldn't hold the lead and couldn't score an empty net goal. And then, of course, had another opportunity in overtime, and we know what happened there with the idiot officials. So the goaltending, Bennington, 12-7, of course, 2.36 goals against average, .914 save percentage. 57 goals for the Blues, just like the Boston Bruins. However, though, 48 goals against versus the Bruins, 33 goals against. Blues typically on average have 30 shots on goal, 30 to 31. 28 shots they're allowed on average on Bennington. Their power play at 19.4%. Penalty kill at 78% for these playoffs. The numbers that really jump out at you when looking at this, putting the 7-game win streak aside for Boston. Boston Bruins 6-3 at home in playoffs. Blues are 5-5 at home in the playoffs. Okay, Blues are 1 game better on the road. They're 7-2, where Boston's 6-2. Okay, so just something to keep in mind there. They're both really good on the road, but at home, Boston's a little better. We look at Rask at a 1.84 goals against average and a .942 save percentage. Where Bennington, 2.36 goals against average, .914 save percentage. Both good save percentages, just of course Rask is up there, and then of course the goals against average, a big difference there. One thing to keep in mind is the Blues had a clunker against Winnipeg in Game 3 where the defense was just horrible. They lost 6-3. I'm telling you right now, Bennington had no fault in that game. And then in Game 1 against San Jose, the Blues lost 6-3, and in that game wasn't Bennington's fault. The defense once again faulted him. So the Blues had those 2 clunkers. Some would say that Game 4 in Dallas was one too that was kind of a clunker as well. But I would say those 2 games, the one in Winnipeg and the one in San Jose. So that's 12 goals right there, and I just think that really deflates unfairly Bennington's numbers a little bit. I think they would be a lot closer to Rask's if it wasn't for those 2 games where we just completely forgot to play hockey. If you look at the regular season when these 2 teams matched up, January 17th, it was in Boston, and the Blues lost 5-2. Jake Allen, though, was in goal for us, and Rask was in goal for the Bruins. February 23rd, it was in St. Louis. The Blues won 2-1 in shootouts, and it was Bennington in net for us, and Rask again for Boston. So you can take what you want to from that, but I'm more concerned about what these numbers show here in the playoffs. The Blues are physical. They're resilient. They're definitely road warriors. They've overcome quite a bit. I think that they had to beat a really tough team and overcome a lot of physicality there in the Winnipeg series, which they did. Dallas, they dealt with their speed and their transition. And then with San Jose, they dealt with experience and with a very experienced blue line, but also an experienced front too, because this team, a lot of them are on the same team that went in 2016 to the Stanley Cup Finals, that beat us to get there. So the Blues, I think they've overcome physicality in the first round. They overcome speed and agility on transition in the second round with Dallas, and also really good goaltending too. Don't forget Ben Bishop. I mean, he's up for the Vezina. And then in the third round, the Blues, they overcame just a lot of experience. So you look at Boston. Well, Boston has speed. They have experience. And they have some physicality to them. So they're throwing things that the Blues have overcome throughout the first three rounds. So that's why I find it hard to still count out the Blues as much as a lot of analysts are, because if you're just looking at the numbers, I understand that. Boston is a great team. They've got, in my opinion, the best line right now going in the league right now. But the Blues, they've had to shuffle their lines, and understandably so, because they haven't always gotten the production they've wanted from their top guys like O'Reilly. He has seemed like he's hurt at times. Tarasenko, just sometimes he gets too frustrated and doesn't just continue to play his game. And Schwartz, he's having an unbelievable postseason. You just hope the well doesn't dry. Shen, he's doing what he can, but he's not doing what he does in the regular season. But he's being physical. He's put in some timely goals. So that's important. Is just he stays on the scoring sheet in some way, shape, or form, and you just got to hope that Schwartz's contributions and goals. He's got 12 already, and he only had 11 in the regular season. And if he scores another goal here, which I don't see why he wouldn't in the Stanley Cup Finals, you're looking at him setting the record for postseason goals for a Blues player. So this is something that's just great to see. So overall, looking at the numbers and everything, definitely Boston takes the cake here, but numbers, while they don't lie, they don't tell the whole story. And as I talked about what the Blues faced in the first three rounds, I just feel that they still match up well against Boston. I think this is going to be a great series. When you look at it from the factors of what I've done before, so coaching, I think coaching's even. The reason why I say that is because while Boston's coach, he's been there the whole year and they had a very good season, Berube, I think, evens it up because of what he did in turning this team around and the attitude when he came in, when really all was lost in that first half of the season, and the turnaround they had coming into the morning of January 3rd when they were dead last in the NHL, and what he's been able to do with his adjustments within the playoffs to help the Blues get to where they need to be. I really think that the coaching's even there. I think they're two great coaches and have, of course, mutual respect for each other, and I think that they're very even there. Offense-wise, I give a slight edge to the Blues. Now, some people probably are like, are you crazy? The Boston has the best line of hockey. They've got a lot of scoring. The only reason why I say that is because the Blues, one of the things that have got them here is I feel they have more spread-out scoring than Boston does. I feel that we have a little more depth than they do with our four lines. And I know that Boston has a strong third and fourth line, but I feel that we're stronger, especially with our fourth line, too. And I just think that you've seen spread out scoring more from us, and I think that that's going to be helpful to us in this series. I just think that you can always look for the next man up. You can always look for something out of any of these guys, and I think that that's going to help us. It's just a slight edge, Defensive-wise, I do give the edge to the Blues. I think that not only do we have more size, I know that they have Chara, but we have two big guys in Bouwmeester and Parayko. Then, of course, we have Petro. But also, too, we've been getting scoring from our defense way more than Boston has. Our defense is a part of our scoring. They get involved, and that can also help us, too, because they're good at pinching in. They're good at taking good shots on net. And, of course, Petro's got some great goals that he scored in the series right from the blue line. So that's why I give the slight edge to us in the defense as well, too. Goaltending, you have to give it to Boston. Rask has been stellar here in the postseason. Just the numbers-wise are a lot better. Although, as I said, too, there were two clunkers in the first series against Winnipeg for the Blues and in the series against San Jose. And also, too, Bennington, he's still a rookie. Rask is not. There's the experience there, so I understand that. Special teams, you have to give to Boston, of course. There's really no way to other to look at it. I mean, 34% on the power play versus our 19.4, 86.3 on penalty kill versus 78%. So when you look at it, the Blues are edging Boston, in my opinion, in two, in offense and defense. Goaltending and special teams go to Boston. Coaching's even. So I have come to the conclusion that, well, yes, Boston's favored in the series. I see why. Of course, I'm a Blues fan, but just looking at this team and what they've overcome, I have confidence in them. I'm picking the Blues in 6. This series could go 7, absolutely. I have no doubt in my mind it could. I hope this series goes 6 or 7 games. I just think it's too good of a matchup for it not to. But I'm going to pick the Blues in 6. In order to get there, the number one is that, Boston has had a longer layoff than we have. You got to get to Rask and you got to get to him early. I mean, the Blues were able to beat Ben Bishop, and they got to him early in the series. So the Blues need to do that. I know Boston has done their due diligence in studying Bennington. Well, the Blues have on Rask as well, too. And if the Blues can get to Bishop, I believe they can get to Rask as well. And that's the number one thing, first off. Secondly, they have to stay out of the penalty box. No stupid penalties. And that includes Bortuzzo. In the series against Dallas, he's lucky a couple times that he didn't get in more trouble than he should have with some cross checks and different things. I like Bortuzzo, but man, he's really got to watch his temper. Also Perron, he's got to watch himself not doing any stupid, cheap things around the net on Rask. Just don't take stupid penalties. You can't not against this team. If you're going to take a penalty, I mean, it's got to be something that, either you couldn't help it, it was inadvertent, or, if it was to save a breakaway, something along those lines. But don't take stupid penalties, after the whistle, things like that. That tends to kill teams. And the reason why, when you look at the Boston-Carolina series especially, which is most fresh in my mind with Boston, when they were 5-on-5 with the Hurricanes, it seemed a little more even. But when it got to special teams, especially the power play, Boston just went in for the kill. So you have to stay out of that penalty box. And then number 3 I have on the list here is Bennington. I hope he continues on doing what he's been doing. There's no reason to doubt him up to this point. He's been stellar. He's been like a rock back there, but he's got to match Rask. And then 4th, I just put win the battles. Coach for Boston, he feels one of his biggest part of his philosophy is that you got to win the battles down low in the slots, both on the defense and offensive side. And he feels the team that does that is going to be the team that wins. I have no problem with that philosophy. I think it's a good philosophy, absolutely, for coaching in hockey. So if that's the case, then Boston focuses on that a lot. And also, if you remember, San Jose, they actually tried that quite a bit on us. They tried, and I even heard too from some of the media that in practices, on off days between playoff games, they were trying a lot of plays like that in practice, down by the goal line, down near the net. That's where they were trying the hardest. When you look at shot charts on both goaltenders, Bennington and Rask, Bennington there's a higher percentage, of course, of scoring on Bennington in those deadly areas more than there is on Rask. Well, I mean, that's understandable. Those are the deadly areas. You don't want most of those shots coming from there. But he's made quite a few quality saves. And in fact, in Game 6, he made a very quality save on Kane, just right there on the doorstep late in the game in the 3rd period. So Bennington's capable of making those great saves. It's just, Rask has been a little bit better in that area. So the Blues really have to win those battles out front to make sure Bennington can see the puck as much as possible. And also, too, the Blues are physical. So bringing that physicality, again, what brought down San Jose, part of the reason why was that physicality. It worked against Dallas. It even worked more against San Jose. It wore them down. Winnipeg, we just tried to match them. That's all we could do because Winnipeg is big. They're a strong team. That's one of the reasons why they were picked to come out of the West. And we defeated them in 6 games. So just winning the battles with their physicality, that's number 4 on my list. So get to Rask, stay out of the penalty box. Bennington, continue to be Bennington, and win those battles with your physicality. That's a recipe, I believe, that can beat these Boston Bruins. They're a great team. It's going to be very, very tough. But I believe the Blues can do it, and I believe the Blues can do it in 6. But, of course, I wouldn't be surprised if this goes 7. And, of course, I wouldn't be surprised if everything I just told you completely goes out the window starting tomorrow night as we talk here on the eve of the first game of the Stanley Cup Finals for 2019. I mean, it's been a crazy playoffs. I mean, just alone, you look at the Winnipeg Blues series. I mean, the Blues won the first two in Winnipeg, lose the next two at home. There was no home win in that series until the Blues took it at home against Winnipeg to then move on to the next round. It's crazy. But when you look, the Blues are 7-2 on the road, 5-5 at home. And you look at Boston, they're 6-3 at home, 6-2 on the road. I mean, Tampa Bay too. They were swept in the first round. I mean, that team was amazing in the regular season. So it's been a crazy, crazy playoffs so far. So anyway, that's my prediction: Blues in 6. And we will see what happens. It's going to be a great series. If you're a pure hockey fan and you don't have any Ducks in this series, I understand. If you're not wanting to watch it, but it should be a really good series. So just from a pure hockey standpoint, and hopefully a really good battle between two really good goaltenders. One who's had a good full season and a good playoffs, but Bennington, a great story in his own right, coming in for the second half of the season and really helping to turn this team around and having a good playoff run as well. So very excited, and we'll see what happens starting tomorrow night in Boston. So let's go Blues.